An update now to the controversy over Joe Rogan. The podcaster's been at the center of a firestorm over COVID vaccine misinformation and his past use of racial slurs. Spotify has been sticking by its star. Now the New York Times reporting that Joe Rogan's deal with the audio platform is worth at least double what had previously been thought, which was $100 million. Two sources familiar with the transaction telling the Times the Rogan's deal is actually worth at least $200 million over 3.5 years. So if you're trying to think about incentives and motives for why people are supporting folks, I think $100 million would have been an incentive enough, but 200 makes it doubly so. Bex?
They picked the right photo with him, as you were saying that. He's like, yeah, thumbs up, $200 million. Berkshire Hathaway's Warren Buffett is trying to set the record straight after an article in the Wall Street Journal earlier this week insinuated that Berkshire Hathaway may have had inside information on the Microsoft Activision deal. At issue, Berkshire took a $1 billion stake in the video game giant in the fourth quarter of last year. Weeks later, Microsoft bought that company, or made a bid to buy the company, for more than $68 billion. The timing of that raised eyebrows at the Wall Street Journal because of Buffett's decades-long friendship with Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates, although Gates did resign from both Microsoft's and Berkshire's board back in 2020. Yesterday, Buffett took the unusual step of writing a letter to reporters to clear up the misconceptions. He said the purchases of Activision were made by one of his two independent investment managers, meaning either Todd Combs or Ted Weschler. He said about 85% of the position was acquired in October and that the purchases were finished in November with a cost average of about $77. Buffett wrote, when Microsoft files its proxy materials on its proposed purchase of Activision, I would be surprised if they even had discussed a proposal with Activision in early October, although I do not know. Buffett also points out that the $77 a share purchase price could have been replicated at about $78 a share after the Microsoft proposal was announced, and it was no bonanza of any sort for Berkshire. Andrew, this is interesting because in this situation, look, he spoke to the Wall Street Journal reporter off the record before the article was published several times during the day. The Journal went ahead and published this article anyway, insinuating that the price had been much lower, $66 or something. And that article was up for so long during the course of the day that other places picked it up, too. Right. CNN, Fortune, the New York Post, they all ran with this story, kind of saying, ooh, look at the timing on this, interesting timing, and look at the price, even though the information was wrong with that. And I think that gets to this idea. It's always been out there. If you don't correct a story promptly or quickly, it can get out there. Right. But with the Internet, it's almost like a hydra. Even though the Journal changed the story much later, 10 or 12 hours later, it was too late. The story had been replicated. It's everywhere. You can cut off one head, right, but you can't cut all of them. And I think that's why he made this unusual step of reaching out to a lot of places, a lot of media publications, a lot of reporters to say, let's make sure this story is correct. And in fact, he said he's going to be posting that letter on the Berkshire Hathaway website to make sure that nobody can come back in the event he's not here to clear it up himself and say that this is what happened.
Right. Two quick notes, just because I've done a lot of reporting around the transaction at the time. Mm-hmm. The truth is that I don't believe the negotiations actually did believe. He's probably right. I mean, I know he's right. Yeah. I don't believe the negotiations began. I don't think there was an offer made in October when these stock sales or stock purchases
he
were
made.
These,
the offer didn't come until after Activision shares dropped precipitously, right, after the Journal wrote these stories about it. That would be in November.
Was late November in terms of the actual timing. Yeah. So I think unto itself that should clear the air. And we talked about it on the air the day that the disclosure was made about the Berkshire buying, that it wasn't actually Warren, or at least I remember we were speculating that it was a Todd or Ted acquisition. I would speculate it was probably Todd, but that's my own guess. And nonetheless, but nonetheless, people speculate about all sorts of craziness. But I'm glad that they cleared it up.